Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since you've seen me. My hair's a little thinner and my beard's a little longer, but that's how life goes. I'm making this video to talk about my upcoming move to Raleigh and some goals that I've set for myself once I'm there. I landed a job in November as an electrical engineer for a company called ABB, and I'll be doing 3 rotations in 2 years. Rotational programs for engineering are very common, and they're becoming common for other majors too, where once you graduate, you get to try multiple different positions at a company to see if you're a better technical fit, a better business fit, a sales fit, and also it's valuable to the company because they get young talent from all over the country and source them to wherever they're needed instead of finding people in specific places. I was really fortunate to land this position. And my first rotation is going to be doing research and development in the Research Triangle in North Carolina. Honestly, I never thought I would make it to this point. 4.5 years ago, when I was a senior in high school, I decided and set a goal for myself that I was going to become an electrical engineer. Now, you go to college and you start taking classes, and a lot of people end up realizing that the things that they said they were going to do in high school are not the things that they end up loving in college. I was fortunate enough that when I came here and I was put into my engineering classes, I immediately fell in love with them. And 4.5 years later, I'm making it out the other end, and I'm going to be a full-blown engineer, which is crazy to say. Barring, of course, me failing any of my 4 remaining classes in the next 6 weeks, but I think I've got it. The nature of this position is that I didn't know where my rotations were going to be. I just accepted the job. So I don't know what roles or rotations, locations, where I'll be at. But I just got the news yesterday that my first rotation will be doing research and development in Raleigh. I was given the opportunity to give some input about what type of position I wanted, and then I got to meet with different managers for different roles. This was my number one priority, and I'm very excited. And obviously, when I go to Raleigh, the number one goal for me is to absolutely kick butt doing this job, because this is the part where I get to make or break my career at this company, and I really want to do well. I have some research and development background in the labs here on campus, but doing corporate research will be really different. So I'm excited for that challenge, and I hope that I rise to it or even above it. Outside of work, I also have some personal goals because I'll be moving to a completely new place. I grew up in Minnesota, and I came to school in Milwaukee. And Milwaukee and Marquette have just been wonderful for me. I would recommend them to anybody. Beautiful school, beautiful place. My parents live in Arizona now, so I'm not even near my family. So I'm not really scared to go to Raleigh. It's not far away from home, or it's certainly not farther away from where my home is right now. I'll miss my brother, he lives up here. I'll miss my friends, but I'm more excited to go and live alone and develop this new, persona. Everybody gets a restart when they go to college, if they go to college, and everybody gets a restart when they're done after school. I don't want to lose everything that I've learned here, but I want to add to it. I want to build on it. And to that end, I've set 10 goals for myself for things that I want to do when I get to Raleigh for the 8 months that I'm there before they ship me off to the next rotation. I've got them on my phone, so I hope you don't mind that I'll refer to them because I wrote them down last night and I want to make sure that I hit every single point. First, I want to read a novel written by somebody from North Carolina, preferably about North Carolina. When I came to college, I can honestly say I probably hadn't read a book in 5 years. In high school, all we did was Spark Notes and Lit Charts, and it was just so that we could pass the test. I had no interest in reading, and that changed a lot sophomore year of college. I was listening to a podcast, and it's a podcast that I frequently listen to, and he always talks to self-help book authors about the premise of their books. I love it because then I don't have to waste my time reading self-help books. Not a waste for everybody, but you can only read so much, but there's a lot to learn. And he actually interviewed a guy who wrote this book on grand strategy, and he was talking about the lessons that he learned in writing the book. And I realized that this was so much more than a self-help book. It was about studying the behaviors of great people and learning what it takes to make great strategy. He makes none of the inferences for you. He doesn't say, you should do this to have better strategy in life. He just talks about the other people. It's a lot more academic, and I wasn't sure that I would like it, but I was like, that's interesting. This is a different brand of self-help. So I read On Grand Strategy. The vocabulary was a bitch to get through. It was a kind of a long book for a first time back to reading since like 8th grade. And I read so slow still, but I read really slow then. But I made it through the book, and the feeling of fulfillment and all the lessons that I had learned, the abstractions that I was able to take from it were amazing. And from that point on, for the last 2 years, I've been reading any book that I could get my hands on. Sorry, long-winded path. The goal is when I go somewhere, I'm going to be going out and experiencing and learning new things. Raleigh, I would hope that I'm getting out and getting a feel for the culture there, just like I have here in Milwaukee. I have 8 months, not 4 years. But while I'm there, I want to experience two facets of it. I want to experience the present day, what's there now, and I want to experience what it felt like 100 years ago, something that I can place as I'm walking around. Okay, I've read a novel about, Raleigh 100 years ago, and I can just imagine this guy, trudging through on his way through the countryside. I don't know exactly how to describe it. There's one book about a Confederate defector called Cold Mountain or something. That's on my list of books that I want to read. I believe that's set in North Carolina, written by somebody from North Carolina. So maybe that'll be it. Maybe not. I'll let you guys know. Number 2, and I'll try to make this one a little bit more brief because that first one was so long-winded. I want to use the South location. I've never lived in the South, to kind of springboard me into getting to all of those national parks that are so far from the Midwest. With my parents' fascination with Arizona, we went all over the West, and I got to see a lot of the parks over there. But I, like a lot of other, Americans, want to go to all the national parks that I can in my lifetime. And there are a couple that I guess my parents say I've been to, but I was so young that I can't remember them. Great Smoky Mountains, that's the most popular national park, so that'll be interesting to go to. And Conagry, I think that's in South Carolina, but I'm also going to head north. I don't remember the ones that are north of North Carolina, but I would like to go to 4 or 5, maybe 6 in the 8 months that I'm there. I'm going to be there from June until March, so that's going to be a good clip of time where I'll be able to go and take spontaneous road trips on the weekends, and I'm really excited about that. Number 3 is develop a flavor profile for Southern barbecue. This is great. I'm very passionate about barbecue food. Anybody who knows me would be able to identify that. And now I'm going somewhere that it's part of their identity. It's not as big of a deal here in Milwaukee. It's a big deal in Kansas City. It's a big deal in Texas. It's a big deal in the Carolinas and Georgia. While I'm there, I've been there a couple times before, and I love the barbecue. Now I want to flesh it all out. What are the ingredients that make this barbecue? I really want to take a nerdy approach, and I want to try it, I want to rate it, I want to compare it, and I want to write out a full flavor profile of what Southern barbecue is and what it should be. And then when I get placed in my next rotation, if they've got barbecue, I'm going to compare and contrast them. That's just a little side project that I want to undertake while I'm in Raleigh for 8 months. Number 4, I've been getting really into creative writing. I am writing short stories and poems and flash fiction. I got really into it, I guess in the last 2 years, but especially in this semester, I'm in a creative writing course because I was short in a general elective, and I've absolutely loved it. It's forced me to write. And the more you write, the better you get at writing. I've been really happy with my short stories. I used to want to write a novel a lot. I think everybody did. And right now that's on pause. I'm not quitting. I don't like quitting things. But I am going to focus more on writing more short stories. So while I'm in Raleigh, I can't think of a better situation than writing a short story about Raleigh with characters in Raleigh, inspired by people I meet in Raleigh. Number 5 is not Raleigh specific. You'll probably see this for every rotation that I go to. I would like to save more than I spend. I got really into finances in the last year. I had a buddy who was really into it, so I'm into the market. I got a Roth IRA. My company's got a great 401k matching plan. So I really want to maximize all of that as much as possible because I love what I do, but I also love what I do when I'm outside of work. And I want to be able to have as much time in my life to do the things that I want to do outside of work. And saving more than I spend is the way that I see doing that. I don't like clothing or shopping or anything like that. Everything that I have, I try to make or I buy with the intent of it being art. And I think that's something different. I don't like wasting money on disposables, on really, high-end restaurants. I'm a bread and butter guy. McDonald's is my favorite restaurant, so I would like to save more than I spend. There's a couple specific ways I'm planning to do that. One is making eating out a planned endeavor. Instead of just rolling over to the local fast food joint when I am, not in the mood to cook, I want to actually plan out when I'm gonna go to a fast food joint or to a sit-down restaurant or to a bar so that I am not just spending money willy-nilly on food, because I think right now that's probably my biggest discretionary spending, and if I can cut down on that would be great. Another one's living. I don't really care about having a really nice apartment because I can make any apartment look nice with the art that I hang on the walls and the furniture I fill it with. So I'm going to just take whatever I can get that's in a good location, but that's pretty cheap. I'm looking at 1-bedrooms, but I guess if the right studio came along, I'd even take that. Number 6, and this one I'm very excited about, is I want to go to some Duke and some UNC basketball games. Roy Williams of UNC actually just retired, but maybe they'll get a big coach and they'll be back. I think that basketball is probably the greatest thing that happened to me in the last 4 years. Coming to Marquette, it's a huge basketball culture. I couldn't give a rip before I got here. My family's super into sports, but I always thought it was kind of childish to enjoy a game. But I think that was just posturing and trying to, toot my own horn and feel smarter than I really was. Once I got here, I got an opportunity to actually take photos of the games from the sidelines for the newspaper, and I immediately fell in love with it. College basketball is one of my favorite pastimes. So I'm so psyched to be somewhere with such a rich college basketball culture. And if I can get, season tickets, great. If I can't, then I'll just try and go to some games, and that's something that I'll waste money on. 7 is very Raleigh specific. I am going to have a cheerwine every day. If you haven't heard of cheerwine, that's okay. You're not from North Carolina or South Carolina. Cheerwine is it's like a better version of Dr. Pepper, Mr. Pibb, Cherry Coke, all of that. It's soda, not wine, but it's cherry and it's peppery. I don't know how to describe it, but it's so good. When I first went to North Carolina, I was in 8th grade. My brother was looking at colleges out there. He ended up not going out there, but at all of the colleges that we toured, they just kept handing us bottles of this cheerwine because it was a fun local drink that you can't get anywhere else unless of course you order it online. But I fell in love with that drink, and it comes in these neat glass bottles, and I'm going to keep my fridge fully stocked with it, and I'm going to have one every day because when I was in 8th grade I said if I lived here I'd have one of these every day, and now I'm going to make that dream come true. 8's a big one. It's going to be really tough, but it's a goal, so I want to try and do it. I would like to run a marathon while I'm in Raleigh. I've been wanting to run a marathon for some time. I started running at the end of sophomore year through the summer into the fall. I ran 3 half marathons, but at the end of my 3rd one, I got a pretty serious cartilage knee injury from bad running form and a lack of stretching. I didn't know anything about it because I wasn't a very athletic kid. But now I'm healed up, I wear a brace around my knee, and I'm working my way back towards long distance running. Right now, I can run about 6 miles without issue. I would like to run a half marathon by the beginning of summer, and by fall I would like to be in marathon running shape. So that's the goal. I have a training plan that I'm following right now, and we'll see how that works out. I wanted to run a marathon before I turned 21, and I didn't. I'm 21 now. Now I'm just aiming for before 23. So we'll see what happens. I hope that happens in Raleigh. I'm going to work really hard towards it, but we'll see. Number 9 isn't Raleigh specific, but it is rotational job specific. I want to find a local bar and become a local there, because wouldn't you like to go where everybody knows your name? Sorry, I just had to say that. The reason for this one is not because I am an alcoholic. It's because I do like bar culture and drinking culture, but I also was wondering, I'm going to be spending 8 months in 3 different cities, and I'm worried that I'm going to feel like a tourist. Here I really got to set down roots, discover the neighborhoods, get to know the city like the back of my hand. I could lead you anywhere in Milwaukee and know how to get my way back, get anywhere else without a Maps app. I don't think I'm going to have that kind of versatility in an 8-month stint in Raleigh. I'm going to try my darndest, but you never know. So I asked myself, how can I sufficiently feel like I'm not a tourist at my rotation? And the way that I settled on it was this. You're a local if you can go to a specific bar and somebody pours you the drink that you always order without you even having to ask for it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find a bar preferably run by its owner, because if it's run by its owner, then he's likely to be there, or she, whenever I come, and will get to know my face a little bit more than a rotating pool of bartenders, because I can't spend every night in the bar, That's a very random metric that I came up with for myself. Maybe I'll fail in that goal because I don't have a lot of control over it, other than spending a lot of time at a bar, which a lot of people wouldn't say should be a goal. So I don't know. And 10th also isn't Raleigh specific. I am going to start taking jiu-jitsu classes. So I've been wanting to do this for years, since freshman year. I have a weird fascination with Theodore Roosevelt. I'm a card-carrying member of the Theodore Roosevelt Association, and he had a jiu-jitsu mat in the White House and used it quite often. And I always thought that was so cool. So I want to practice jiu-jitsu. And beyond that, when I was beginning sophomore year, I lost 55 pounds through a calorie-restricted diet and walking 10,000 steps a day. And it was great. Wonderful thing for me, wonderful thing for my health, enabled me to start running. I'm so happy that I did it. But the one thing I lost was all sorts of muscle mass in my upper body. And running isn't an activity that rebuilds those muscles. So I'm pretty flimsy in the arms. I have a very, very flat chest, even though my legs are in pretty good shape. I want to rebuild some muscle mass. I don't have to look good, but I want to be strong enough that I can save myself in the event of a disaster. And I couldn't force myself to go to the weight room. Running doesn't seem to be a problem for me, but weightlifting is just so dry, and the end goal is you succeed if you're in pain when you go home. And that's not how running is, so I just couldn't reconcile it in my brain. But I think the key to it is having a reason to lift weights. So if I'm learning jiu-jitsu, taking lessons, and becoming adequate at self-defense, then the next part is leveling up my body so that I'm a better competitor. But I have to start with the one before I can convince myself that the other is worth something. Because I don't want to get buff just to look buff. That has no value to me. So I've already found a gym that I want to try. We'll see if it works out in terms of scheduling and timing and cost and all that. But I'm really excited to get started with it, and I'll be letting you guys know how that's going to. So that's it. Those are my 10 goals for when I land in Raleigh, and that's a little bit of the background of why I chose them. Thank you so much for checking in with me. I will try to make some more videos as things go along. That was part of my resolutions for 2021, but I don't know. Who knows? I've been bad about it before, so I'm not going to make any promises. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next.